Kanpur, senior members of the profession, my colleagues in the profession, managing committee members of Bhopal branch, a very good afternoon to each and everyone. In a series of 4 virtual seminars on bank audit, where so far we have covered LFAR, bank audit under CBS environment, IRAC norms, and restructuring of loans. Now, the only one key aspect is left, and that is audit planning and documentation of working papers. And for that, we are blessed that we are having one of the best speaker of the industry, C. Anil Saxena, sir. So definitely, we are going to learn a lot from you, sir. And this is for final seminar, final webinar in a series of 4, as Samangji told. So I hereby welcome C. Anil Saxena, sir, and all members in our final virtual seminar on bank audit in the series of 4. Thank you so much. Over to Samangji.
Thank you, Anshulji.
Samangji.
Thank you, Anshulji. Now I would like to read a brief profile of CA Anil K Saxena ji. Anil K Saxena ji is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India.
Samang कैसे ही चलने दो ना.
ठीक है sir. Okay. Over to you, sir.
I think it's fine. I'm a practicing chartered accountant from Kanpur and a fellow member. That should be okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Over to you, sir.
Over to you, sir.
You don't need any introduction, sir.
No, I do need an introduction, but then it's fine. Yeah, आपस में it's just a refresher course आपस के लिए है. I think
it's your modesty, sir. It's totally your modesty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So should I start?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
surely,
please,
sir. Surely.
Thank you. Thank you, Samang and Anshul and other members of Bhopal branch. I think, this is the first time I'll be addressing members of the Bhopal branch on a virtual basis. But then these are the times when I think, even last year, all of us learned कि कैसे virtually a remote audit करना है. And looking at the the condition, the number of cases going up, one is still not sure whether during the current year we would have a remote audit, or because I'm sure there could be many places where we would not be able to visit, or there could be issues about the staff refusing to go, and even I think the bank. They could ask you to do such audits on a remote basis. The challenge, of course, I think बहुत बड़ा जो challenge this time होगा is, the changes which have happened this year, and especially in respect of LFAR. So I don't see how we can do a good job, an honest job of the LFAR when doing it on a remote basis. So it's going to be difficult. But I think, that is how things are, and we have to, so go by whatever comes in the next week. I think, once appointments start, we'll probably get it in the this week, and we may have to start in the weekend or probably the next week. So, this time I'll not be touching upon, the IRAC norms or the other portions, but what I've been asked to do is a practical approach to bank audit with respect to the, documentation, planning part, etc. But what, during my discussion with Samang, I told him that, it will be good if we concentrate on the regulatory changes, which are many this year, and be clear about what regulatory changes have happened during the past 1 year. In fact, if you see the guidance note on Bank Audit 2021, which came out during the current week only, there is an index of circulars, and the circulars, of course, there are no master circulars or master directions which have come out during the year. But jitne circulars hai and FAQs, notifications which have come out from the 1st of April up to, I think the last one which came out was in somewhere in February. There are a total of 84 such circulars, notifications and FAQs which are there, and they are all listed both on the RBI website, rbi.org.in, and also in the guidance note on Bank Audit 2021. So, that is an important thing. So what I will be doing is, I'll be taking up important circulars where they would impact our audit for during the current year. A few of them, and especially with respect to, the restructuring, which probably you may have done, but then I think there's no harm in, discussing it again, because that's going to be the most important issue during the current year's planning and execution of the audit. Other than that, I think one major change which has come about is an additional responsibility of the audit of IFC, which got, of course, postponed last year. And then just during the current week on Tuesday, you had the Supreme Court order 23rd March, which has changed the entire, probably on Monday, if you had talked to any member, you would have said that बहुत ज़्यादा आपके काम करना नहीं पड़ेगा, because NPI identification होना ही नहीं है. And अगर NPI identification नहीं होना है, तो one feels that the major difference of opinion with the branch goes away. I think उनका सिर्फ दो ही चीज होती है कि साहब NPA करें नहीं करें. And then of course the very, very important changes in LFR, which probably is going to change the entire way one has to do bank audit. This, as I've been told by Samank and Anshul, that it's been done by a very good friend of mine, Abhay Charged, already, so that's great. And then, time allowing, we will take up the planning documentation part, because I mean that is something which is part of the total agenda. Of course, there's a disclaimer that everything I'm going to talk over the next 2 hours is going to be you need to treat it as my personal views, and it has nothing to do with the views of either the ICAI or my firm. But however, what I've done is I have referred to the technical standards of the institute, the guidance note, the technical guide, and also whenever I have given my opinion. But then there are some things which are subjective, so maybe there it could be my personal view, and you would have to take it as a personal view and not something which is mandatory. Quickly, before we go on to the bank, I think let's take a macro view. I think sabhi log we would realize that all the pictures of the gross NPA ratio. This is, with respect to the first one, shows public sector, then the private sector, foreign banks, and all these scheduled commercial banks. So surprisingly, agar aap log dekh rahe honge to, March, September, and as compared to September 19, the NPA, the gross NPA ratio, the net NPA ratio is showing a rosy picture, of that having gone down. But then if you see the December, probably it would be much better. And primarily, I think, all these ratios are showing improved picture only because of the Supreme Court judgment of 5th September, and also the moratorium which the RBI gave on the 27th of March post-COVID last year. So this is just a run through that, please don't go by the improved position, but then these are all COVID related. See, look at the quarterly slippage of NPAs. I mean, really, it's very less as compared to March 20, and probably only 10 to 20% of September 19. The PCR, of course, because the gross NPA and the net NPA is less, so obviously the PCR, the provision coverage ratio जो banks declare करते हैं, that is obviously again much better. But all these ratios are going to take a hit post March 21 or as of March 21, primarily because of the Supreme Court order which came out on the 23rd of March on Tuesday. Frauds is something, agar aap pura dekhein, even if you go through the revised LFAR and the last 2 years or 3 years, if you see the inspection reports of the Reserve Bank of India or their main thrust, it's always been on frauds. I mean, see, most of the NPAs are turning out to be frauds. I started off with Nirav Modi and probably much earlier also. But then Master Direction of July 16, which got revised in 2017, and also supported by the guidance given by the Institute on the same Master Direction on frauds as to how the auditors need to tackle frauds in banks. I think this is something which, all of us need to have a very, very close look. And I would advise all of you that, the Master Direction on Fraud as revised up to 2017, kindly download that and read it together with the guidance given by the Institute. Because ये बहुत ही जरूरी है इसमें, even in the अगर आप revised LFR में देखें, so there are, specific questions with respect to the red flagged accounts, which is again given in the Master Direction of 2016. Then it is also giving reference of the early warning signals, which is again, whether or not you classify it as a red flagged or not, and declaration as a fraud. So primarily, I think, whether you go by our own institute's standards on auditing or the guidance or the Master Direction, and also the revised LFAR, new paras which have been added, there is a definite emphasis of the Reserve Bank that, the auditors need to look into cases of suspected frauds. I mean, obviously, there's a great debate which is still going on, where, whereas the regulators are saying that, the auditors need to be bloodhounds. And recently, our new president of the institute, he said, it's very difficult for the auditors to be bloodhounds. So, that is something. But then finally, where there are specific questions in the LFAR, or where there are responsibilities given to us in the LFAR and other portions by the Reserve Bank of India, then we as auditors, as even branch auditors, we will have to look into the signals, early warning signals, and report it at appropriate places. Samank, what I would request all members is that in case they have any query at their time, if probably you have unmuted them, then they could probably raise a hand or probably ask you to allow them to be unmuted, and let them ask a question during the course of the presentation.
Sure, sir.
I think that'll be more relevant rather than waiting for 2 hours to get the questions.
Sure, sir. If any members are having any doubts during the session, that can be raised either through chat box, or members can raise their hand, so I will unmute them at my end, then the query can be asked directly to the speakers.
Thank you. So, now we also need to know what exactly made news during 2021, because I think, everyone is aware that a bank branch audit is an annual affair. We generally do the bank audit after 1 year. Maybe, a good percentage of us would be involved in stock audits, would be involved in concurrent audits and other audits. But then generally seminars, unfortunately, institutes sirf bank branch audit ka hi karta hai. It's very rare that you have a seminar where you try to guide the members on concurrent audits or stock audits, or probably signing off on provisional accounts, signing off on projected accounts. So these are some things I think together with the bank branch audit, one also needs to help the members by holding seminars on other related topics. Now, so just to help you catch up with what has happened during 2021. Number one, the RBI, as soon as there was a lockdown last March 20, it came out with a spate of circulars and gave a moratorium for repayment of interest and principal from 1st of March to 31st of August. Then, of course, during the course of course, this was extended once, so it came up to 31st August. And when this 27th March circular came out, I think the RBI also gave an option, the banks gave an option to the borrowers whether or not they want the moratorium. So some may have taken the moratorium and some may not have taken the moratorium. So this is what is going to change once the 23rd March ka jo Supreme Court order hai, when I am allowed to declare the accounts as NPA. Then during the course of the year, halfway through the year, you had the Supreme Court order where they stayed any classification of NPA advances. A classification of any advances NPA post 1st September 2020. Of course, they had to be standard as of 31st August 2020. Public sector banks as such, as of March 20, showed a lower Have you unmuted me?
Sorry, sir. Some technical glitch has happened. That's why.
No,
you are audible. You are audible. You are audible.
Okay. So probably March 21 post the NPA, fresh NPA additions, fresh provisioning, and reversal of interest, etc. I think it's going to take a good hit on the bottom line of the banks, and probably the figure would not be as it was in March 20. 23rd March, जैसे आपको बताया कि ये Supreme Court का order है, we can take this up a little in detail so that all of us are aware. Then 5th September, you had the revised exhaustive LFR, which I think you've already discussed. Then, like I said, the RBI expectations with respect to the early warning signals of the system as also brought out in their master directions. Now it finds place in the revised LFR. So, one cannot say that, and since, there's a new concept of transactional audit and process audit in the LFR, I think, now one cannot say that, the accounts which come up for inquiry subsequently to one of the members, one cannot say this was part of my check, sampling, and I did not check that. Then, of course, typical of the profession we are in, the audit assurance would always be audited again by the press, government, and public on an ongoing basis. This, I think, if we are auditors, we need to be ready to face this. To my mind, I think, with respect to the resolution framework, I think during the current year, when you can classify accounts as NPA, I think the 6th August 2020 RBA circular for resolution framework of COVID-19 related. In fact, there are two circulars of the same date covering most of the borrowers. So this would be most important, and I would definitely take this up. Then a number of banks having gone down, mergers of public sector banks. Obviously, I think all of you would have observed that the number of branches also, because of the new system by which the allotment of audit is being done, the number of branches for eligible for audit has also gone down. And uski wajah se, I think, number of branches which each of us would be getting as branch auditors would also probably reduce. I'm not sure what the banks are going to do, whether they're going to continue allotting 2 to 3 branches and then probably reduce the number of auditors, or maybe reduce the number of branches and try and maintain a reasonable population of branch auditors. Then, of course, by the regulator, this is always done. So one has to be very, very careful, especially, we should do an audit which is planned, which is documented in such a way that, everything we do, we have a document where we can fall back upon. And in case of any query which comes in later because of the RBI AFI, I mean, banks, if you remember, I think, these are entities which get re-audited after our audit. So, and mostly in the risk-prone area. So one has to be very careful that, we need to document everything. Planning, of course, is part of it. But then the main thing is, even if it results in you coming back from the branches with 2 to 3 fully loaded files, or maybe in the soft, I think that is totally justified. One major change which has come in is a new reporting requirement, which is the technical on the internal financial control. I think sabhi logon ko, I think all of us are aware. This came out on the 19th of March. So just nearly 1 week back, last week on Friday by the institute, which is this actually last year. In March 20, the RBI gave a communication to all the heads of the public sector banks stating that the statutory auditors now need to report on the internal financial control. So last time, agar aapko dhyan hoga, COVID bhi tha, most of us did it on a remote basis. The banks were not ready with anything. They did not have any risk control metrics or any process to be documented, which we as auditors could have checked. And of course, it was too short a time. So finally, in May 2020, they came out with this circular deferring this application of internal financial control to March 21. So, one has to report it for this current year. And March 21 is the time when we need to report. And of course, last year they gave an option that, if any bank wants to do it in March 20, one could have done it, but then no public sector bank opted for that option. Now this IFC of reporting on the IFC, which if you remember, it even for Companies Act 2013, it came out as a reporting responsibility on the internal financial control, but then subsequently, the institute and other bodies, they pressed and said that, our role as an auditor has to be restricted to the financial reporting part. So that is why even in the companies, our responsibility is in internal financial control over financial reporting. So similarly here also, agar aap pura internal financial control check karne lage banks ka, so it's going to be an issue which probably, it will go beyond our capability also. So that is why now, the current IFC, let me clarify that, there is no RBI circular for you to fall back upon. So agar aap RBI ki website pe ja rahe hain, and if you're trying to see, whether there is a circular with respect to IFC, there is no this. The only guidance you would get is the technical guide on IFC issued by the ICAI of 19th March. So, this is something you need to keep with you, read it thoroughly, not only you, but also, ensure that, your entire team members read that, because that would be, let's say, you complete your bank audit seminars today and you still have 4 to 5 days before you go out to the branch. You would have already identified your team. So those team members, you need to ensure that, they start reading all these technical guides. So one is the technical guide on the IFC. The second is the technical guide on the LFAR, revised LFAR, which has already come out. And the third is, these are the minimum document guidance I'm asking you to read. And the third is the bank audit guidance note. And of course, the important circulars which came out during the year, you would also need to download or probably keep it in PDF file and then take it with you to the branch. But then before that, try and hold your own meetings, try and hold your own training programs for your team, so that when all of you reach the branches, you are totally aware as to where exactly are the key risk areas and where do I start with. Now, typically, I think, ज़्यादातर हम लोगों को लगेगा कि सब IFC की reporting मैं क्या branch में कर सकता हूँ, so it should be purview of the statutory central auditor. You are correct that, generally this is what the technical guide on audit says, but then since the design part of the controls happens at the head office, but the implementation always happens at the branch. I mean, अगर जहाँ भी आप branch जाते हैं तो जितने भी transactions होते हैं वो उसी branch में होते हैं. So obviously जो भी control उन्होंने head office में दिया है, it has to be checked at the branch level. So that is why the technical guide is very clear that it is also applicable to the public sector branches. Of course, please bear in mind that the IFC reporting is not applicable to the cooperative and other banks which are not companies under Companies Act or under banks under banking regulation. So maybe the RRBs and others, it may not be applicable. One, the सबसे बड़ी problem हमें ये लगती है कि मैं how will I actually do all this? I mean, it's a very technical matter. I may have a branch जो ज़्यादातर branch managers को कुछ भी नहीं idea होगा. So जो technical guide ने जो पूरा वो दिया हुआ है, number one, it says that it is not necessary that all the branches would be required to be reporting on the IFCO FR. That is, IFCO FR reporting will not be required for all the branches. Now, isme, I think probably there is a guidance to the statutory central auditors where they will be selecting. Now, let's say a bank mein there are 3,000 branches which are to be audited, or maybe less. And then out of that, based on the parameters where they have a guidance, I think the technical guide also gives that. So once they, based on that guidance, they would probably select 500 or 600 or maybe more. I'm giving you an absolutely, a number which I'm not sure is right or not. And those branches, if you happen to be the branch auditor, then you would have to report on the IFCO FR and also do a check. Now, इसका चेक कैसे करना है? सिस्टम उन्होंने ये करा है, अगर आपने IFC का काम करा है तो basically what it does is that they identify all the controls and the risks, and there is a document known as the risk control matrix which is made at the head office level. This is done by the management, and जो central office पे controls lie करते हैं, the statutory central auditor will do it, and जितने controls branches पे lie करते हैं, the branches would be required to do it. So what the technical guide says is, so why I'm repeating this is because if you do not get any of this, so kindly write to your bank or to the central statutory auditor that without this, based on the technical guide, I will not be able to carry out my control testing on the IFCO FR reporting responsibility. तो इसमें बेसिकली उनका ये कहना है कि जो रिस्क कंट्रोल मैट्रिक्स या जो कंट्रोल टेस्टिंग स्टैट्यूटरी सेंट्रल ऑडिटर हेड ऑफिस पे करेगा, और अगर उनको कोई वीकनेसेस एक्सेट्रा मिलेगी, नंबर वन दे विल आल्सो इन्फॉर्म द ब्रांच ऑडिटर्स व्हिच आर रेलेवेंट टू देम. नंबर टू, you will get a risk control matrix which is something like probably an LFR based question, or basically अगर आप देखें तो for a branch auditor, most of the control testing would be on advances and deposits, because that's basically what a branch does. So advances and deposits पे they would say that these are the small controls which the management has told us. Now you need to check this. So उसमें defined होगा कि what is the control and what is the procedure you need to adopt. Third, what is the sample you need to take. So let us say वो कहते हैं कि साहब आप please whether the control with respect to receipt of the stock statement and entry into the CBS, whether the control exists or not. I'm giving you an example. Now, if that be the case, it will say that what exactly the statutory central auditor expects you to do. Number two, they would also say that कितने cases में आप इसको check करें random basis पे. And अगर कोई गलती मिले तो then you need to give it in the final report in the same risk control matrix. So basically, and of course, the SCAs are also expected to give detailed instructions to the SBAs, the branch auditors, so that we are able to do a good job at the branch level. So to summarize, number one, I am not sure whether जो मैं branch कर रहा हूँ उसकी FQFR में reporting होगी नहीं होगी. Let's say होगी, अगर होगी तो then I will expect to get number one, what are the control weaknesses which they as SCAs found out at the head office level relevant to the branch. Number two, the risk control matrix जो उन्होंने हमें detailed instructions to us. Third, the risk control matrix with audit procedures and suggested sample for checking. So once we get this, our job will become an easy job. I mean easy job in the sense straight away जो भी बताया गया है वही करना है. We do not have to actually ask the branch manager कि साहब क्या controls exist करते हैं. वो सब आपके पास already वहां से आएगा. So like and all this is given in the technical guide on IFC. So I'll again request all of you that please get a copy of this. It's available free as a PDF. This thing, download it and please read it thoroughly, at least with respect to the branch audit. So this clearly says that the branch auditors would be required to only test the operating effectiveness based on sample size as determined and communicated by the SCAs. Right? So one new document which अगर आपको ध्यान होगा, I think year on year we've all been repeating this, that as soon as we get an appointment letter from the bank, after sending an NOC to the previous auditor, the first thing we do is once appointment accept कर लिया, we also exchange an engagement letter as per the standards on auditing with the branch incumbent. Now this is with respect to the financial statements. Now after this audit of IFC, नया FQFR का जो नया responsibility आई है, here it says that you need to exchange another engagement letter for carrying out the FQFR, because that is based for the financial statements, the tax audit, etc. And FQFR is a new responsibility. You will be issuing a new report. So effectively, आज के दिन आपके पास एक financial statement की report हो गई और एक नई report हो गई जो FQFR में, similar to what we do in the companies. So this engagement letter will be a new document which all of us need to document along with the engagement letter which we relate to the financial statement. The format is given in Appendix 3 to the technical guide. So all of you can, have a look at that, and then based on that, carry a soft copy and print and exchange it with the branch incumbent. The Appendix 5 lists out the risk control matrix, and as I discussed earlier, the branch audit mein zyadatar it will relate to the advances and deposits. Now we come to the reporting part. The reporting part में whether आपकी branch FQFR की reporting के लिए select हुई है नहीं हुई है, both cases I need to issue an audit report. That is, if I am doing a branch which has not been scoped in, that is, it has not been selected as a branch where FQFR reporting is necessary, I will have to issue my report in the Annexure 6A, again as part of the technical guide. 6B is the one where I have to issue the report in that format when I am reporting on the IFC. That means मैंने risk control matrix को test करा है. इसमें थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखिएगा कि अगर कोई manual interventions हैं, तो this may amount to management override of control. So this is also part of, अगर आप LFR में देखिए तो उसमें वहाँ भी data integrity और बाकी चीजों की बात करता है. So broadly, one will have to scope in what issues I get after doing my IFC verification. बहुत जरूरी एक चीज है जो I think जब हमारे पास IFCO-FR की reporting responsibility नहीं थी, अगर आपको ध्यान होगा तो I think all of us would have this pressure from the branch management as soon as you identified a few tricky kind of NPAs where they were not comfortable with the amount of NPAs. They would generally try and pressurize you and ask you to put it in the LFR, which of course was harakari, as I would say, because if in the audit report मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि साहब कुछ भी मुझे गलती नहीं मिली, MOC nil है, and I'm passing hidden MOCs in the LFR, so obviously I think all of us agree that that is the worst thing we could have done. Now the third report which comes out now is the IFCO-FR. So what I would suggest is जब आप report issue कर रहे हो, do not do it without giving a thought to it. सबसे पहले try and find out कि क्या-क्या आपको issues मिले IFCO-FR की RCM की testing में. Number 2, what are the negatives in the LFR? आपके LFR में जो questions हैं उसमें ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको you will not find issues, because there are specific responsibilities like if you talk of the computation of the drawing power, I don't think सभी लोग एक चीज से हमेशा से they used to feel that how is it that the sundry creditors are not reduced, and how is it that the financial statements, the audited financial statements के हिसाब से जो stock, debtors, creditors है, it does not match anywhere near to what has been given in the stock statement. So those kind of issues, obviously you'll have to report them. So what I'm trying to say is कि जो issues आपको LFR में मिले, जो issues आपको IFCO-FR में मिले, जो issues during the course of the checking of the financial statement, list them down and see that what are the issues where I need to report, probably in 2 reports. So let's say I could have a case where I'm reporting in LFR, I also need to report in the IFCO-FR report, and also need to report in the main audit report. So there should be no contradictions amongst the 3 reports. ये बहुत अच्छी तरह ध्यान रखिएगा कि गलती से कोई contradiction ना हो जाए. Now, of course, the guidance note, this came out 1 day post the technical guide on the IFCO-FR. And for us, it is section B, bank branch audit. All of us have been using this every year, and we can definitely, download it and use it again for reference. Supreme Court order of 23rd March. Let's quickly go through the, background. I think the background, like we said, 27th March, there was a loan moratorium for 6 months from 1st March to 31st August. Then the government also for the resolution, the government fixed the deadline as 31st December 20, which is still there today. And subsequently on, a certain case being filed and on demand by the business community, what happened was the RBI and the central government, they said for loans up to 2 crores, जो compound interest charge hai during the moratorium period, which is 1st March 20 to 31st August 20, there'll be no compounding of interest on that. So this was the relief which was given for loans up to 2 crores. And of course, subsequently, the Supreme Court passed an order on 3rd September stating that all accounts which are standard as of 31st August, because that was the end of the moratorium period of 6 months, they said from 1st of September, none of the accounts can be declared as NPA till further orders, which happened, of course, on the 23rd of March this week. Now, the current order basically what it has done is that, number one, they have refused to extend the moratorium period. So from 1st of September, now आपके normal 90 days delinquency norms apply करेंगे. Number two, Supreme Court ने ये करा कि जो हमारा interest waiver था compound interest का, that they said there is no justification कि सिर्फ 2 crores and below का ही हो. So they said every account, whether it is less than 2 crores or above 2 crores, 50 crores, जितना भी है, during the moratorium period, provided I have, of course, I think opted for the interest, I think it would be for everyone. So for all the accounts, the interest, the compound interest cannot be charged. And if it has already been done, then this has to be refunded and obligated, adjusted in the next installment. So obviously this will have to be done by 31st March 21, and it should be part of your audit program or your audit checklist, because this is something which normally would be done by the system. But even then, I think as an auditor, you need to ensure that for all accounts, whether it is 2 crores and below or 2 crores and above, whether or not the system is either refunding the amount of interest, compound interest, or it is reduce the installment of the loan account. So these were other prayers which, the earlier petition had asked for. So since, the extended period of moratorium request was struck down, so that is why now we have a case where, post 23rd of March, all accounts which have not been declared as NPA as per the 90 days delinquency norms from 1st of September would now need to be classified. So our job as an auditor बहुत important हो गया है. It's going to be a little complicated because there is definitely a few branch incumbents would definitely try that if this is hampering or this is increasing the NPAs, they would definitely try and look whether as per the 6th August 2020 circular, they can restructure those accounts and then probably retain them as standard account. So of course the RBI has given that option, but then if we have not already done it, it's going to be definitely tough. So our job as an auditor is now also because of the revised LFAR, and this time probably one would have to look into transactions from the 1st of April or maybe earlier also, because the reference date is the 1st of March 2020. So in most of the circulars which are issued. So maybe, our scope of reviewing the transactions बढ़ जाएगा, and in respect of, the large advances जो LFR में है, it will actually amount to verifying the entire year's transaction. And like we all do that, we would also require to test or check all the transactions up to the date we are closing the branch. I'll summarize a few circulars तो बहुत सारे हैं, but then broadly अगर आप देखें तो earlier जो circulars निकले वो सब loan repayment moratorium के लिए और interest repayment moratorium के लिए first 90 days के लिए दिया गया, उसके बाद उन्होंने extend कर दिया 31st August तक. तो 23rd of May तक I think broadly यही circulars रहे. And then there was another circular for the review of the resolution timelines, जो आपका अगर आपको ध्यान होगा June 2019 का circular था, which talked of the resolution of loans above 15 crores. Then एक of course 6th August 2020 के दो circulars हैं, जैसे आप देख सकते हैं. One is all three of them cover most of the borrowers which have a stress and need resolution because of the COVID-19. MSME की definition change हुई है, वो भी हम discuss कर लेंगे. One very important circular which probably has got hidden, but I've tried to take it out, and you can also use it in your concurrent audits, is the opening of current accounts, the need for discipline. Now there are 3 circulars which the RBI during the current year took out, where broadly it is said that अगर आपने देखा होगा कि generally CC accounts के साथ many branches, many banks also, they have this concept or system where they allow current accounts to be opened, and so you also have a CC account, you also have a current account. So जितने भी frauds या forensic अगर आप देखें तो they have all happened, the diversion has happened through the current account. So the credit which actually should come into my CC OD account, it goes into my current account and gets withdrawn from there. So this is broadly, आप loan दे रहे हो एक account में और credit कहीं और ले रहे हैं. So इस risk को, जो obviously was a gate for lots of frauds and other things, the RBI took out this one circular on the 6th of August 2020, and then 2 other circulars on 2nd November 2020 and 14th December. So these 3 I'll discuss, and just as a matter of slides, and I think these 3 circulars, other than doing a test during your statutory branch audit, I would also advise you to do a similar exercise in all the concurrent audits you're doing. This also has a check on in the revised LFR, the ad hoc short review renewal, a small circular where all of us have always been troubled by the short reviews and credit reviews, short reviews and quick reviews. 6th August, I think I already told you we'll discuss this, and current accounts ho gaya aapka, and then of course the definition of MSME which is changed. So I think these are the important circulars which would be relevant to all of us, and I think I'll take up one by one. So this is the chain of the COVID relief circular quickly. So 27 March, the RBI gave a moratorium of 3 months. 17th April, they said that accounts which are standard on the 29th February, because 1st of March was the reference date, cannot be downgraded, and then 23rd May, that 90 days jo first 31st May tak gaya tha, so they extended it up to 31st of August. Then of course the Honorable Supreme Court stayed, and then subsequently 23rd March ko this was vacated, and in between the very important circular of 6th of August. So let's start off with the 6th of August RBI circular. Now this particular circular, if you are doing also NBFCs, friends, this will also apply to NBFCs. It literally applies to all financing bodies. So normally, agar aap RBI circular dekhen, to it would generally say it is addressed to the scheduled commercial banks or regional rural banks or the cooperative banks. But this actually is applicable to all financing bodies. Since COVID was a pandemic, it was a important, it resulted in stress to all businesses. So the RBI made it applicable to all financing bodies. Now, agar bahut broadly isko summarize kare, see what I'm going to do is 6th August 2020 circular. I'm going to give you a summary. I'll give you a broad understanding of the circular, and so that the micro part, when you actually identify cases which have been restructured as per the 6th August 2020 circular, आप लोग check कर सकते हैं उसको. Now इसमें broadly part A, part B है. Part A relates to personal loans, part B relates to all other eligible borrowers. So एक MSME इसमें के लिए एक और 6th August 2020 circular का निकला है. So broadly अगर आप देखें, part A में personal cover हो गए, part B में all other eligible borrowers, and a separate circular in MSME accounts. and D is a disclosure requirement which may or may not be applicable to branch auditors, and C is with respect to some prudential treatment which we will take up. So this particular circular is not eligible to MSME, farm credits, housing finance companies, etc. With respect to specific things which you can probably have a look at the 6th August 2020 circular and read that. But very broadly, it does not apply to farm credit and MSME. If you remember the 1st July 2015 circular, जो master circular on prudential guidelines, direct norms हैं, तो broadly उसमें earlier हमारे पास एक process था where अगर मैं restructure account करूँगा तो then I could retain any account as a standard accounts provided there was compliance with a few conditions. Now subsequently RBI ने July 15 के बाद they said that no, nothing doing, any restructuring you do, you have to downgrade it. So बहुत broadly अगर आप देखें, except for exemptions given by specific circulars, be it in large borrowers or in respect of the small borrowers which happens because of natural calamity. अगर आपको ध्यान होगा, natural calamity का एक अलग circular है जहां भी हम standard retain कर सकते हैं. So other than that, आप बिल्कुल एक thumb rule है आप लोगों के लिए कि अगर कहीं भी आप restructuring देखें तो you have to downgrade it to a substandard account. But now, because of the 6th August 2020 circular, what it says is that in case I comply with the timelines, जो 2 या 3 dates हैं जो मैं आपको बताने वाला हूँ, अगर ये 3 या 4 dates and जो बाकी conditions हैं उनकी compliance करता हूँ मैं, so then I can retain that account as a standard account. So the only exception, like I think आप लोग सभी aware होंगे that restructuring में except for change of management, everywhere I needed to downgrade. But now the 6th August 2020 circular says that if the stress is on account of the COVID related stress, then those borrowers, of course, we are talking of, because we are talking of part, no, we are still on the general this thing. So if it is related to, COVID related economic stress, then if I, do a restructuring or a resolution of the stress as per the 6th August 2020 circular, then I can retain that account as a standard account. Okay, so general rule of downgrading the account as a substandard will not apply provided the borrower's stress is on account of COVID. So this is something जो आपको एक subjectivity आएगी. The over exuberance में there is a strong possibility that the branch incumbent could probably try to frame everything under the COVID stress. तो वो आपको इंडिविजुअल केसेस में जहां एटलीस्ट मटेरियल है उनको आपको आइडेंटिफाई करने पड़ेंगे एंड यू विल हैव टू सी वेदर द स्ट्रेस was something which had been going on for a long time, or is it something which has happened because of the COVID related economic stress. So broadly, the broad guideline is that if we do not comply with the timelines, if we do not comply with the guidelines, I will go back to the earlier or the prudential guidelines of downgrading an account as substandard on restructuring. Now, इसमें पहली जो important date आती है, that is the reference date, which is the outstanding amount of debt which has to be considered for resolution as of 1st March 2020. ये common है whether we are relating to personal loans or part B, which is relating to all other borrowers. Very broadly, number one, the part A talks of only personal loans. इसमें बस थोड़ा सा difference है part B में other से, which is the date of the implementation. Otherwise, बहुत broadly same है personal loans and other loans का. In both the cases, the eligible borrowers are those which are classified as standard but are not in default for 30 days as of 1st March 2020. Okay? So that means it should not be under the SMA 0 category, which is 0 to 30 default period. तो अगर आप क्रिल्क रिपोर्ट देख रहे हैं और मटेरियल केसेस देख रहे हैं तो इसको ध्यान रखिएगा, जिसमें जहां भी रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग अलाउ हुई है, I have to go back. That is why I said I have to cross 3 financial years. One 2021, एक 21-22 because trying to find out कि इस साल क्या हुआ, और एक 19-20 because मुझे ये देखना है कि as of 1st March 2020 क्या जो अकाउंट ये restructure हुआ है, whether it was standard as on 1st March 2020 and the default was not for more than 30 days, right? So एक हो गया reference date, which is obviously the 1st of March 2020, but reference date में आपको ये ध्यान रखना है, number 1, it is a standard account, number 2, the default is not more than 30 days. Second आता है the date of invocation. Invocation date वो है, again this is also common for both the part A and part B. Invocation date वो है when both the borrowers and the lending institutions agree that हमें एक resolution plan से आपका restructure मैं कर सकता हूँ. So अगर इसमें अगर आप ऐसा देखें तो obviously like any other restructuring, so the borrower would apply and he would give you the stress related because of COVID. Number 2, he would give us a projection that post-COVID क्या होने वाला है, and he would give us what he has already a provisional account or an audited account, a projected account. So based on all this and based on the financial parameters which the RBI also this year has already given by way of another circular जो मैं एक slide में आपको दिखाऊंगा, based on this I will then agree, the branch agrees कि okay I will restructure it. So वो वाली particular date it becomes the date of invocation. So एक मेरी reference date हो गई, second हो गया मेरी invocation date. Third date मेरी आती है कि जो invocation date है, it cannot for personal loans go beyond 31st December 2020. And जो date of invocation है, now let us say my date of invocation was maybe 1st of March, or sorry 1st of September or 1st of October, any date, whichever date जब हमने restructure करने की सोची, because it has to be after 31st of August, 6th of August जब ये circular निकला. So within that invocation date, I have to implement it within 90 days from the date of invocation. But अगर 31st December तक मैं date of invocation कर रहा हूँ, that means 31st December तक I agree with the borrower that I'll restructure it, then 90 days will be, your critical date will be 31st March. So, and just to summarize this, for other loans जो part B में दिया हुआ है, eligible borrowers 1st March है, invocation date same 31st December है, but implementation के लिए उन्होंने वहाँ 90 की जगह, because there will be larger borrowers, they have said it will be 180 days. So the critical date वहाँ 29 June होगा. तो बहुत सारे ऐसे केसेस हो सकते हैं जो आपका probably 31st December को ही invoke हुआ and उसकी implementation अभी period नहीं complete हुई, तो then you will have to accept it without ensuring whether it has been implemented or not. Broadly, agar the part A and part B also talks of the same thing, where the resolution is not implemented either as per the timelines or the conditions of this 6th August 2020 circular, I will have to downgrade it as per normal prudential norms, right? और अगर मैंने March 21 से पहले या उससे और भी पहले अगर मैंने implement कर दिया, invocation अगर मैं 31st October करता हूँ तो मेरे पास 90 days होते हैं, which probably will fall in January. So I will, ensure that the implementation is within the timeline. All conditions जो इस circular में दिए हुए वो comply with हुए, then I will treat it as a restructured account and retain the account as a standard account, right? So second आता है part B, which covers all borrowers other than the personal loans. Here also the same thing, eligible borrower जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, same उसका भी date of invocation 31st December 2020 है, but date of implementation 180 days है, तो it is 29th of June. अब इसमें ये कहता है कि अगर आप single banking sole banking आपकी है, तो then obviously as per the board policy मैं जो भी restructuring agree करूँगा. But अगर multiple lending institution है, then either 75% by value of the borrowers or 60% in number. अगर वो लोग सब agree करते हैं, then that will become the date of invocation for the purpose of implementing within 180 days. So अगर 6th August है, now let us say I had invoked this on the 23rd of August. तो इसका जो implementation period है, it will fall within 1st of March, the 31st of March 2021. Now, इसमें एक चीज और होती है generally, मैं इसीलिए I'm not getting into too many details. I think there'll be a lot many other details which you'll have to do when you're doing when you're verifying whether or not the restructuring is correct. Is the ICAI in the inter-creditors agreement. Now, it also says that when it is invoked, then the ICAI has to be signed within 30 days from the date of invocation. अगर वो नहीं होगा, ICAI 30 days from date of invocation नहीं होता है. Let's say there are multiple banking है, 10 borrowers हैं, 10 borrower में से 75% by value, 60% by number, 6 bankers अगर agree करते हैं, तो उसके बाद एक inter-creditors agreement sign करना पड़ता है. अगर वो 30 days from date of invocation नहीं होता, तो it will be treated as lapse and again it will become it will have to be downgraded. So broadly, अगर part A, part B में देखें, तो basically it says that all the timelines, all the conditions, all the they have to be complied with as per and I think the best way of doing it is that आप एक checklist में जो आप बनाएं, तो उसमें ये ले जाइए कि अगर personal loan है, तो मेरा I have to check the whether or not the account is standard on 1st March 2020. Date of invocation क्या है, whether ये date of invocation is before 31st December and whether it has been implemented before 31st March within 90 days from date of invocation. Similarly, other borrowers में भी ऐसे ही एक checklist बना लीजिए and अपने audit program में इसको include कर लीजिए so that you comply with this 6th August 2020 circular. I mean, for all of us as branch auditors, I think this is going to be the most important circular for the purpose of restructuring, because obviously because of the COVID related stress, I'm sure sub branches में restructuring बहुत होगी इस साल. I'm not getting into this. The additional finance maybe similarly there is a case that if before implementation कुछ additional finance दिया है, so there are a few conditions about write back of provisioning, when it has to be written up, that जो provision आपने बनाया है, how much you can write back, that depends on the repayment of the debt. So let's not get into that. I think all of you can read that through that 6th August 2020 circular. And this is the disclosure requirement, which is also again given in the same circular. So this may come as a statement for you to sign, or it may be probably, if the information is available, maybe the SCAs would do it at the head office level. This is the together for the restructuring, COVID related restructuring, 7 September 2020 का circular है, जहाँ financial parameters RBI ने define करे हैं for the purpose of restructuring, which is now if you see here the key ratios which they've identified, current ratio is 1 and above and not normally which the banks take. So similarly, these 5 important key ratios which you can again take with you and test whether the key ratios were within the parameters set by the RBI before the account was restructured. Then like the 6th August circular relating to the personal loans and other loans, there was another 6th August 20 circular for restructuring of MSME advances. Here, agar aapko dhyan hoga, aur bhi pehle 2019 and earlier, there was a restructuring of MSME. Here, similarly, the conditions, it says that, you know, the MSME account can be retained as a standard account, provided number one, the aggregate exposure, which is obviously fund-based, non-fund-based, less than or equal to 25 crores. It was standard again on the reference date, which is 1st March 2020, and it is implemented up to 31st March 2021. So basically, ये अगर आप देखें तो similar to a personal loan हो गया, इसमें भी वही conditions हैं कि borrower standard है as of 1st March 2020 and restructuring implement हो गई 31st March 2021. तीन conditions और हैं. Number one, GST registered borrower को होना चाहिए, provided they are not exempt. And it also says that, you know, the asset classification.
मैं जा रहा हूँ, थोड़ा सा उस कमरे में बैठ जाओ, जब फोन करूँगा तब उठिए.
Yeah, so asset classification of borrowers classified as standard may be retained as such, but which slip into, because 1st March 2020 is the reference date. So it says that, you know, those accounts which slip into the NPA category from 2nd of March and up to the date of implementation. So they may be upgraded on the standard if the restructuring is done as per the timelines and as per the conditions on the date of implementation. तो बीच में हो सकता है ये NPA हो जाए, but 31st March 2021 में अगर ये implement हो जाता है from 23rd to 31st March, it will you know, be upgraded as a standard account. MSME का जो नया definition as per 2nd July 2020 RBI circular का है, both in terms of the investment in plant and machinery and turnover, micro, small and medium है. So whenever it is restructured as an MSME account, I think you need to do a test check or a test of the turnover maybe based on the GST returns or any other external document where you can find out maybe as per the audited financial statement ki investment in plant and machinery इससे ज़्यादा तो नहीं है, so that they are not actually MSME, and similarly turnover भी whether it is exceeding the limit. The RBI now in this circular of 21st August 2020, it says that, you know, frequent repeated ad hoc review renewal regularly happens. I think, you know, as auditors हम लोग को बहुत problem रहती है कि generally banks क्या करते हैं कि जहाँ 180 days है for renewal of the limits, what they do is they do this quick review or short review and then carry it on. I have seen banks जो क्या करते हैं, probably, you know, they will do it for 90 days, फिर उसके बाद another 90 days, 180 days wait करेंगे, फिर 90 days के लिए कर लेंगे. But whereas the 1st July 2015 circular of the RBI is very, very clear कि जिस दिन से limit expire होती है, I have a maximum of 180 days up to which I have to review that or renew that. And उसके बीच में मैं 2 short reviews कर सकता हूँ और ad hoc और quick review कर सकता हूँ. That is, it has to be in continuation and the total period taken has to be, you know, 180 days. And post that, it has to be either downgraded or renewed as per the bank's policy and as per the guidelines of the RBI. So another thing which I think, you know, if you also see the corresponding LFR, the entry of the ad hoc review or the short review has to be based on actual documents and into the FINICAL. The date has to be based on documents and they should not be entries which are made by the branch manager to ensure that, you know, the account does not get classified as an NPA. So if you see in the third box, it clearly says that, you know, banks to capture all data relating to regular as well as ad hoc short review into CBS and MIS and make them available to the auditors or RBI. So as a data integrity check, I think I would suggest, which is, you know, a requirement of the revised LFR under the books and records, that under the data integrity check, I think all of you need to at least test check that जहाँ भी ad hoc short review अगर करा है तो whether it is based on actual documents and or is it that we've only entered certain dates without having any kind of documents to support that. This is of course 14th September 2020. They said RBI said that the systems have to be put in place for asset classification, upgradation, etc. In the IT-based system up to 30th June 2021. This 16th October 20 circular एक circular है जो loan to value ratio में risk weights housing में change हुए हैं. I think you can have a copy because जब आप capital adequacy का check करेंगे तो maybe आपकी you may require this. Now let's get on to this very important circulars which were issued on 6th August 2020, 2nd November 2020 and 14 December 2020. Now there are two conditions. One, whether a bank, the branch which you are doing can open a current account together with the CCOD. This was the basis on which frauds and other things were happening. Now we have done kind of summarized it through a flow chart. So primarily the circular clearly says that in case the borrower has a CCOD facility, no bank can open a current account. Right? So if I have a CCOD facility, under no conditions can I open a current account. But if the aggregate amount of credit facilities other than CCOD, now there are three conditions. If it is less than 5 crores, that is, if I have a term loan, if I have, other than these term loan, housing loan or any other loan, then if the total aggregate exposure is less than 5 crores, then whichever bank has given the loans, maybe two banks would have given it, 1 crore and 3 crores each, so a total of 4 crores, then any bank can open a current account subject to an undertaking that all receipts will be debited to the dues of the borrower. Now if the other credit facilities, the amount is greater than 5 and less than 50, here what it says is any lender, that is lender of other than CCOD, can open a current account, but non-lenders can open only collection account. So let's say 3 banks ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने housing, term loan, machine loan, etc. दिया है, and then there is also another account, 2 accounts ऐसे भी हैं, let's say SDFC, ICAI, where the borrower goes and opens a current account. Now what it says is that even those banks, it is their responsibility that they can open only collection account, and the debit to that account, so only the credits can come into that account, and the debits to that account has to go to the account of the escrow account with the lending bank. So if there are 2 lending banks, there are 2 other banks jahan current account khula hua hai, so the other 2 banks cannot allow any debit other than a debit to the outflow of funds into the collection, the other lending banks escrow account lending bank. अगर 50 crore के ऊपर है, then basically rule वही है, it says that suitable escrow management होना चाहिए जिससे कि जितनी भी credits हैं वो बैंक में आए, and एक account ऐसा, एक बैंक ऐसा होगा जहाँ escrow managing bank agent will open the current account और कोई भी नहीं खोलेगा इसमें, other lenders. So here even whereas in 5 crores and 50 crores में any lender could have opened a current account, here no lender can open a current account, and non-lending banks obviously cannot open a current account. So here it will only be the bank which has escrow mechanism in place, जिसके जो current account खोलेगा और जिसमें debits credits आएंगे और debits आएंगे, that is the only thing. So I think it's a very important set of 3 circulars which the RBI has taken, and this, like I said earlier, this is applicable to all of you, both in respect of the branch audit and also in respect of the concurrent audits which you would be doing. So it's going to add a lot of value to your concurrent audits if you identify current accounts jahan CCOD accounts already hain. Now एक चीज इसी सेट ऑफ सर्कुलर्स में एक और चीज दी है जो हम लोग we can check is whether debits in the CCOD accounts is allowed where where the bank's aggregate exposure is less than 10%. Now, if you see the flow chart here, the question is the bank's exposure, that is fund-based and non-fund-based, to the borrower 10% or more of the aggregate exposure? So if total अगर suppose 100 crore उसके पास banking industry से उसने loan लिया है fund and non-fund, and मेरा 15 crores है total मिला के, maybe even in my concurrent audit account, I say yes, then the CCOD facility can be availed, right? So if it is more than 10%, I can give a CCOD facility. The basic thumb rule is, agar no hai, so here you can clearly say that it says that this I can give a CCOD facility, but it can be used only for similarly jaise wo tha, only the credits, and the debits again here in these accounts will have to go to the borrower, the bank where it is more than 10%. So let's take an example. Let's say SBI has a exposure of 15%. It is opening a CCOD facility. Another bank, let's say Canara Bank, it has an exposure of 7%. Now here the RBI circular says it can open a current account, but is current account mein debit jitne bhi honge, it cannot be for purchase, it cannot be for salaries, it cannot be for withdrawal of cash, it cannot be for anything. All debits have to go to SBI only, or any other bank which has an exposure of 10% of it. So these are, the set of 3 circulars, very, very important. And you can also do this check. Obviously, बहुत simple है. जब आप Finacle में करेंगे, तो you can find out, where CCOD accounts है, तो current accounts maintain कर रहा है, नहीं कर रहा. I think, LFR आपका already हो चुका है. I'm only referring to the technical guide, which has come out probably after Abhay took his seminar. So this came out on the 22nd March, and for you, it will be applicable for Section B. Very broadly, I will only say that, the documentation, like I think Samank also highlighted that, the documentation in respect of the revised LFR has to be very, very comprehensive. It has to be, you have to document everything you're going to take. The adverse observations, like we said, the LFR, the IFCO-FR, and the report on the financial reporting has to be mapped, and there should be no contradictions. And the most important, idea behind the revised LFR is a difference between the transaction audit and the process audit. So in respect of all large advances, I am going to do a transaction audit. So transaction audit would mean that, I am giving an affirmation of literally the entire transaction, subject to, of course, the materiality levels of SA 320. And in respect of the other accounts, other than the large advances, I may be doing a process audit. But then most of the questions of the revised LFR, I'll have to answer definitely in the affirmative in respect of transaction audit. So in case I am doing, I do get a query subsequently that, this particular account was restructured incorrectly, and the RBI says that, you kindly explain to us that why did you allow this account to be classified as a standard? Then if that particular account falls under the transaction audit part, that is the large advances part, then I will have nothing to hide behind. I cannot definitely say that, this was under my sampling and I did it on a test check basis. Here, there is no test check because I think, you have to give the names of the accounts which you verify. And, we also need to understand that when we are giving the names of the borrowers, there's a column for names of the accounts. So a particular borrower can probably have 10 accounts. And if I have 5 accounts and with 10 accounts each, so that would mean that, there are 50 accounts which I will list out in that particular table. And the RBI would also expect me that, I do a transaction audit of all those 50 accounts. Meaning thereby, now let's say there's a borrower of XYZ, he has a CC, he has a PC, he has a bills purchase, he has an inland bills purchase, he has a LC, he has a BG. So all these limits, housing loan, term loan, so all these loans will have to be subjected to a transactional audit. Friends, I think, now in the last half an hour, let's quickly go into, what my main topic was, which is the planning and documentation. A quick walkthrough. I think, all of us are expecting an appointment letter, and as soon as we get that appointment letter, we obviously, based on the conditions which come, that, whether or not we are indebted to that particular bank, together with the relatives. Friends, I think, the best way of ensuring, now let's say there is it's a proprietorship firm, or it's a firm with two partners, maybe, who sit across in the same office. You may have a case where, you can confirm to each other, boss, have we taken a loan from this particular bank, jiska appointment aaya hai? But then there would be a number of cases where, you have around 8 to 9 partners, or maybe, some cases more of them. I would suggest that, you shoot out a letter to all the partners and take a confirmation over email that whether or not, the partners, their spouses, and all those who are named in that, conditions of appointment, whether or not they have taken a loan, and whether by any reason we are disqualified as a firm or as to accept the appointment. So before you accept the appointment, I know, there would be an excitement to accept the appointment immediately, but then for me, I think, it would not take too much time. By the time you accept it, you can also immediately write to all the auditors, talk to them, and then seek confirmation. This is what serial number 3 is about, which is, independence, indebtedness, fidelity, and secrecy. And then post that, I think, obviously, it is nowadays allowed that in case of a branch audit, I think it's already been clarified that we can accept the appointment, but together with that, we can write to the previous auditor seeking an NOC for appointment, inquiring whether there are any professional or other reasons for your not accepting the appointment. Like earlier मैंने बात करी थी, engagement letter आपको 210 में not only for the financial statements but IFC के भी आपको लेना पड़ेगा, and इसमें 210 का जो आप लें, generally appointment आपका हो सकता है zonal office या head office से आए, but correctly, the engagement letter should be signed by the appointing authority. But then since, practically it would not be possible, and the branch manager is responsible for the preparation of the financial statement, so you can get it signed and recorded. The best way of doing it is, as soon as you get the appointment letter, जितने भी branches आपको मिले, दोनों के engagement letter आप यहाँ अपने print करके ले जाएं, 2 or 3 copies, and then get it signed by the branch incumbent, get it stamped, and then give a copy to him and get back 1 copy for your own record, 1 or 2, depending on the system you have of maintaining a master correspondence or not. Then of course, very important, जो अभी आपसे एक बारी बात करी थी कि जितने भी सर्कुलर, जितने भी गाइडेंस, जितने भी स्टेटमेंट्स एक्सेट्रा आपके आए हैं, तो दैट as soon as you get the appointment letter, तो आपको ये आइडिया हो जाएगा कि what is the size of team you would require. And this time I would suggest that, because the LFR and IFC की एक added responsibility है, if you have been going to a branch of size A with, let's say, a team of 1 plus 2, then I would suggest that please go to the branch with 1 more senior person who would be able to do the RCMs, who would also be able to do the LFR requirement, because it will not definitely be a half-day job or a 1-day job. I think, the person who's doing the LFR, he'll have to probably, if you're taking 3 days, which I do not foresee any branch this year getting over in 1 or 2 days. So if it is going to take 3 days, so that one particular person probably would, who's also doing obviously the advances, would he would be required to sit on the LFAR, discuss with the management, and of course, report on the paras, and of course also the IFCO FR. Post that, I think immediately, जैसे ही आपकी NOC भी तैयार हो गई, acceptance भी हो गई, the first thing one needs to do is send an inquiry letter to the branch and also request data for off-site review. I think this is something which all of you need to do, that immediately जैसे ही आपको कल परसों तरसों में आपको अपॉइंटमेंट लेटर मिल जाए, please send out please talk to the branch, find out कि उस ब्रांच में क्या क्या एडवांसेस हैं, कितना एनपीएस हैं, कितना फंड बेस्ड है, कितना नॉन फंड, जनरल एक हेल्थ ऑफ द ब्रांच पता लगा लीजिए, and after that send out an inquiry letter and also email. In fact, this inquiry letter should also, other than the hard copy, probably should go by email only, so that it gets received by the branch immediately, and also a data request for off-site review. So this we have been trying for a few years, I think, and most of the branches, I have not found any branch which has refused to do it. So they've given us this off-site data through on email for our review at the back office. So this primarily prepares you with the health of the accounts, the number of accounts, हर head में कितने accounts हैं, कितने NPAs हैं, and various other things. So typically, like I said, a medium level branch, generally I would think of member ABC for 3 audits, but now I would probably add member D for the LFR and the IFCO FR reporting responsibilities. Before you end the audit, I think one very important document is the SA 580 or the management representation letter. इसमें जितने भी आप verbal confirmations हैं, इसको भी draft करके आप पहले ही ले जाएं, and please this year include all the confirmations you want in the LFR, the revised LFR. सभी पैरास चेंज हो गए तो आपको बहुत confirmations लेने होंगे. Although let me tell you that these confirmations will not protect you from any error which you should not have made, or something which there is an oversight. But if there's a genuine error, probably it will protect you. But then MRLs, as per the SA 580, they are not meant to protect auditors. They're only there to give you a confirmation of the what the branch incumbent is telling you verbally. Generally, आप जब discuss करते हैं तो the branch incumbent may tell you something on a verbal basis during discussion, but when you ask him to confirm the same in writing, maybe he would be careful. So please take MRL as also suggested in the guidance note, and include, I'm not sure if the revised LFR, IFCO FR, tax audit and the certificates part is included there. If it is not included in the guidance note, please include all the relevant paras before you get the SA 580 letter signed. Sorry. There is a pre-sign-off checklist compliance which I have tried to make in respect of important aspects. This is primarily a pre-sign-off checklist which I expect that the signing partner takes a confirmation before he signs off. So at the end of it, जब मैं sign करने बैठता हूँ, तो I want to confirm whether these important things have they been taken care of. So this is a pre-sign-off checklist which we'll be dealing with a few things. Then serial number 10, please ensure that you sign only these statements and certificates for which you have been appointed. Your appointment letter clearly says that you would be required to sign the following statements, the following certificates, LFAR, tax audit, whether or not yes or no, and etc. etc. So, make a list of these and ensure that you sign only that. Do not sign anything which the branch manager asks you to do, which is not there. Because when you get the appointment letter, you have exchanged an engagement letter with the branch incumbent. So you have, both of you have accepted that, these are the statements for which I've been appointed and for which I'll be signing. Last point, the one way of doing it is that, you sign the audit report as is given by the bank in the format. But I would suggest that, you do it, but please ensure it is in compliance with number one, the SA 700, 701, 5, 6. Of course, now CAM is not there for branch audit. And also map it to the draft audit report as given in the guidance note on bank audits, respective part B, which is relates to branches. Similarly, the appendix or the annexure 6A, 6B relating to the IFCO FR report, there also you will have to map it with the what is being given in the technical guide. So, there are a number of cases where probably I sign off the the audit report as is printed by the bank. Please do not do that. Carry your own audit report, both IFCO FR and this thing map. Do the mapping exercise in back office. Let's start from post Holi from Tuesday, and do the job of training, do the job of mapping all statements, do the job of creating a checklist, do the job of mapping all the audit reports with the guidance note and the technical guide, and then carry a soft copy so that it can be printed at the branch and done. Now, this is the data which generally we ask for as in off-site review. So basically, if you see, it gives you everything. It gives you a complete GLB. So once you have that, you can automatically, find out which are the accounts which actually need to be checked. And, the GLB, it would be good if you ask for both as of 31st March 20 and 31st March 21, so that you can do a analytical exercise, in the back office, etc. And of course, the jotting reports, etc. of various banks, BGs, LCs. So whatever they do give to you, whatever you are able to, convince them to give to you, you can do a very thorough review in the back office. And, when you reach the branch, you'll be able to probably feel that, I already know the branch, because I already know that, these are the accounts, these are the important accounts, and these are the accounts where there is a material change as compared to the previous year where I need to look into. So a lot of time would be saved. So effectively, if I can work for 3 days back office, I can work for 3 days at the branch. Probably, I'll do a 6 or 7 days job, which bilkul perfect hai for any branch audit. एक जो हम लोग 8-10 साल से एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं, और अगर आपने देखा होगा कि all disciplinary cases, all cases where chartered accountants have been probably pulled up, is because of non-obtention of external confirmation. Now, when I suggest this, generally people say कि साहब ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? See, I'll tell you what we do. जैसे ही हम लोग जब बात करते हैं ब्रांच से, उनसे बस इतना कहते हैं कि साहब जो selected sample of advances हैं, इस टाइम आप सब large advances and plus another 10 advances ले लीजिए. Let's say large advances generally हर ब्रांच में आपके किसी के 5-10 से ज्यादा नहीं होंगे. तो I have a sample of 20 advances, 20 deposits, random basis में. अगर बैलेंस विद बैंक्स एंड RBI अगर है तो वो ले लिया, और प्लस अदर एसेट्स, अदर लायबिलिटीज में अगर कोई एक्सटर्नल बोरोअर है, कोई पर्सनल अकाउंट. सो इन सब के पर्सनल मैं ईमेल आईडी ले लेता हूँ. I ask them for the balance there, because if I already have the data with me, I can choose it from there. And then एक आदमी को, even if I move out of the station for doing the branch. One person, I just tell him that, in respect of these 3 branches which we will be doing, these are the email IDs, these are the advances का outstanding, और आप इसको ये format है already SA 505 का. We just tell them that, we send out emails to all of them. So maybe, in 3 branches, I may have to send out around 100 email IDs, जो बहुत quickly हो जाती हैं, and seeking confirmation of the balance of advances as of 31st March 2020. I know generally, it will not be a case where it will not reconcile. But in compliance with the SA 505 requirement, if you do this, you have a confirmation. Let me share with you that, out of all the emails we send out, there is a decent amount of confirmations, emails which we get back. Abhi tak, obviously there has been no case where they have said that this is not the amount which is outstanding as per their account, but that will only happen where probably it is because of some reconciliation. But then since it's a bank account, reconciliation अगर कोई entries होंगी तो वो बता देते हैं. Otherwise अभी तक हम लोग का everywhere we have जो भी 20% 25% cases में जो आते हैं, we've got confirmation. So which is a good document to have for us in the back office. Pre-audit team meeting, like I said, I think, all of us need to sit down. Now that, we've seen seminars, you can ask your team members to probably view some seminars जो उनके लिए relevant है. Maybe आपका जो junior लोग हैं, they would probably be doing the profit loss and the balance sheet and other certificates, तो उनको उसमें train करिए. If you are doing the restructuring part, then probably you need to go through all the restructuring circulars properly. There would be another person who's doing the LFAR, तो उनको LFAR से related जो भी guidance note है, technical guide, वो पढ़ने के लिए दीजिए. And also the master direction circulars जो relevant है, and the circulars which have come out during the current year. So all this, number one, we do a meeting of the entire audit team, and number two, I also during the next 3 to 4 days ensure that I do a thorough study of that. Other than also doing a review of the data which I received from the branch. What are the risks of improper planning? Obviously, if I do not plan properly, I will go there, I will do a quick job, but there will be pressure for me to do it quickly. Some people may be able to sustain that pressure, some people may not be able to, and may, sign off without actually going through the entire compliance. Friends, I think, even if it takes you 2 extra days, even if it takes you 3 extra days, but if you're not satisfied, do not attest. Audit and assurance is becoming a very, very risky job. It is, you never know when things are going to turn around, when you may be asked to explain as to why, the classification made by you is justified, because the RBI in its financial inspection report AFI is probably given a separate classification, and that is something which I think we need to understand, that it's an audit by the regulator, and in case they say that they finally prove that it is done because of gross negligence, then it'll be very difficult for us to even protect ourselves in case the disciplinary mechanism gets commenced. So I think we need to plan and study very properly. We need to, when we are answering any question specifically in the IFCO FR, the RCMs we get, and the LFAR we get, and also this year the Ghosh Jilani. Of course, there are some controls there also. But then we need to ensure that we do a job, and wherever we are affirming something, we have a document to prove that. Because 2 saal, 3 saal baad, I should have that document to say, okay, this is why I concluded that. If you have that, I think, based on the information I have, we'll be totally protected. Another, I think, very important, other than the compliance with the RBI master direction, circulars, etc., the technical guide, the guidance note of bank, etc. I think, one very important compliance which we need to closing instructions which these SCAs issue, which you probably receive from the bank. I think that is something all of us need to read thoroughly, because see, the technical guide, the bank audit guidance note, etc., is based on a general understanding of the bank's working. But the closing instructions, which the SCA would issue, would be based on the specific, processes in that particular bank. So probably, the SCA is worried that, these controls need to be verified by the branch audit. तो इसीलिए हो सकता है उसमें उन्होंने कहीं ना कहीं लिखा होगा. अगर आपने देखा होगा क्लोजिंग इंस्ट्रक्शन में, तो in every head के नीचे they also ask us to do कि इसमें what do they want us to do, किससे cross check करना है. Every statement has, also, although nowadays it is all under CBS, but then even then there are controls which we need to map. And of course, like I said, the audit by the regulator, the risk of the RBI AFI divergence is the biggest risk all of us face when you are doing a branch audit. I think, this is all about complying with all the standards, the technical standards, the guidance note, technical guide, which we've already discussed. Standards on auditing, I think even in the guidance note दिया हुआ है, but broadly for me, I think 230 सबसे important है. 240 जैसे मैंने opening remarks में दिया था, auditors' responsibilities relating to fraud. I think this is very, very important. 520, it will help you truly, because आपके अगर आप revised LFR का question देखें तो उसमें दिया हुआ है as compared to the previous year. Although पहले भी यही करते थे. That broadly means that, GLB आप पूरा balance sheet, profit loss के जितने भी items हैं, उसको March 21 और March 20 को map कर लीजिए. See the percentage variance in that, and wherever the variance is material, either in the positive or the negative, get into discussion with the branch and then try to find out कि ये क्या business reasons है or for any other reason. So probably sometimes you might find that, the entries are, like if you remember in the LFR, this time they said अगर other liabilities का withdrawals या अगर material debits हैं, so then we need to check that and probably report that, basically because, sundry deposit mein there are a number of cases where there have been frauds by the branch officials transferring it to, slowly to one of their personal accounts and then withdrawing it through that. So, this analytical procedure से हमें automatically मिल जाएगा. SA 320, I think once we do get into the large advances, transactional audit, हमें 320 apply करना पड़ेगा, because it is not possible for us to do a 100% check of any banking transaction, because number of transactions in large advances is going to be massive. So obviously we'll have to apply that. We'll have to download the transactions to whatever extent possible and then do a check. SA 500, 230 के साथ साथ, I think, it clearly says that I should have sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So मैंने जैसे आपसे कहा, चाहे 2 फाइल भरें, आपके 3 फाइल भरें, या आपके पूरे लैपटॉप पे you have a number of this thing. Take as much data. Extra data is never going to hurt you. Extra documents are never going to hurt you. But if the documents are less, it's going to hurt you a lot. So let us, हो सकता है ज़्यादा photocopies करानी हो, अगर वो he refuses to give us the soft copy. So let us get that photocopy done, even if it is done, although generally the banks would allow you to do it. अगर नहीं है तो आप अपना करा लीजिए. But the audit evidence has to be strong, or else, probably we need to note down everything so that we are able to reply whenever there is an audit by the regulator. External confirmation 505 मैंने आपको बताया जो हमने सिस्टम वो करा. 260 जनरली हमारे ब्रांच लेवल पे नहीं आएगा, बट अगर कोई बहुत मटेरियल चीज ऐसी आती, then definitely हमारा we have to interact with the top management and also with the statutory central auditor. Audit sampling probably in the LFAR and other part where we are doing a process audit, हम audit sampling use कर सकते हैं. 580 मैंने आपको बताया written representation both in respect of the financial statements and also in respect of the LFAR, tax audit and the FCOFR. And using the work of another auditor, I think all of you जब आप branch जाते हैं तो concurrent auditor report देखते हैं, inspection report जो internal audit department ने करी है वो देखेंगे आप, हो सकता है आप forensic audit reports देखें, stock audit reports देखें. I mean all these are necessary because now you would have seen in the LFR you are required to reply to specific stock audit reports also. Of course, like मैंने आपको बताया था, जब reporting करें तो please ensure that you know it is as per the guidance note जो आपके bank audit पे है, and also map it probably with the essay relevant essay 700 or 705 जो आप कर रहे हैं. Now 230 जो documentation से related है, I think मैं हर अपनी seminar में ये बताता हूँ, but I'll again you know for the sake of repeating, I would say that you know once you're through with the entire restructuring and the NPA classification and provisioning, and there are two kinds of cases there. One cases which are absolutely clean, that means restructuring बिल्कुल perfect है, आपका classification बिल्कुल it's a perfectly healthy account, and if it's an NPA the provision is correct with no security depletion. Now, other two जो cases हो सकते हैं वो ऐसे cases हो सकते हैं जहां हमारे ऐसे account हो जो जब आप finally 31st March जब April में जाके management के साथ बैठेंगे branch manager के साथ, then you say कि साहब ये वाले accounts मुझे NPA करने हैं, and हो सकता है list आपकी because आपने कहा कि साहब ये 10 account आपने जो restructure करें हैं, number one COVID से नहीं related है और किसी टाइमलाइन उसकी कंप्लायंस नहीं है या कोई कंडीशन कंप्लाई विद नहीं हो रही, तो मैं इसको स्टैंडर्ड नहीं अलाउ करूंगा. एंड बाकी 5 अकाउंट में यू मे से दैट यू नो देयर आर अदर कंडीशंस कि इसमें डेलिंक्वेंसी नॉर्म्स अप्लाई कर रहे हैं. सो अगर ऐसे उसमें पोस्ट डिस्कशन आपका ऐसा होता है, उस 15 अकाउंट में 10 अकाउंट ऐसे होते हैं जो आपका एनपीए हो जाता है, तो उन केसेस में भी प्लीज टेक अ कॉपी ऑफ द स्टेटमेंट ऑफ अकाउंट एंड नोट डाउन as to why those accounts have been not classified, sorry, downgraded as an NPA. I mean, you know, give the specific reason. अगर 6 August 2020 के सर्कुलर का कोई पर्टिकुलर पैरा की नॉन कंप्लायंस है, उस पे नोट तभी कर लीजिए, you know, non compliance with para 6 of the RBI circular of 6 August 2020, hence downgraded, hence the account cannot be retained as a standard account. So probably this. Now, if you remember, even in the revised LFR, there also it has been clearly said that, you know, if in case the accounts have been upgraded or downgraded, uska second question ye hai ki if yes, then give reasons. So ye reasons to main yahi note karunga. I will document it and also give it there. So now this year I cannot downgrade or allow upgradation of any account of 10 crores and above in case I do not have a reason, and the reason has to be with reference to a specific para of the RBI or any other normal prudential guidelines. Balance 5 ऐसे हो सकते हैं कि because you know of some incorrect understanding आपकी, you may have probably wrongly thought that इसकी MOC देना, but even then because it's a case which you know you discussed with the management and you probably thought ये NPA है, तो उसमें भी I would suggest that you know please write down in detail as to why that account finally you did not classify as a NPA, because यही reason अगर आप properly लिख लेंगे, यही reason अगर गलती से next 2 or 3 years में AFI की inquiry में आता है, so then I'll be able to easily reply because I have the document. And इसके support में जितने भी आप documents ले पाएं तो kindly take that and document it, so that again when you reply with documents is going to help you a lot. You know, I'll be frank with you, I have faced you know these kind of queries a number of times from the Reserve Bank directly also, and every time the only thing which has protected me by God's grace is my documents and is the reason which I document when I get out of the branch. Because आप सब I think realize करते हैं कि एक बार आप बैंक से बाहर हो जाते हैं, then it's very difficult for you to probably come back to the office and do anything because you may have forgotten. तब हो सकता है आपको कुछ याद हो. So ये दोनों statements kindly document properly. It would and also I think this should also cover the restructured accounts and also the upgraded accounts because of the revised LFR. Okay, now pre-sign off checklist quickly. Red flagged account एक ये जो 2016 का जो circular है उसमें कुछ early warning signals दिए हुए हैं, 43 हैं parameters, जहां वो कहते हैं कि अगर किसी borrower के account में ये exist करते हैं, ये revised LFR में भी है, तो then I will be the bank needs to flag that as a red flagged account. Now obviously इसका it is subjective. The bank has to take a decision of flagging it as a RFA. If it is not flagged as a RFA, in spite of 3 to 4 conditions being there, my advice is please report it in the LFR that in spite of existence of these 3 to 4, 5, 6 early warning signals as per the RBI Master Direction of 2016, the account has not been marked as a RFA account. And if the RFA account is not removed as an RFA within 6 months, the RBI guideline is that it has to be reported as a suspected fraud and consequently provided for. So again, this is, I think RFA also, there's a specific question in the revised LFR. Early warning signals, I think again, this is also there in my revised LFR, but then जो ये institute की specific technical standard है, which is the early signals of fraud in banking sector 2018 edition है, उसके बाद आया तो I'm not sure, but then I think once you read that, उसको बस अपने checklist में अलग से print out करके ले जाइएगा, and जब भी आप at least large advances का transaction audit कर रहे हैं, and if you find any of those early warning signals, please note it down and report it at the appropriate places. Fraud में generally we are required to report on frauds again in the revised LFR also. Now the RBI has a central fraud registry portal. Unfortunately, as an auditor, you cannot log into that CFR portal. So what you need to do is, let's say अपने 5 आपके normal accounts हैं जिसकी आपकी transaction audit कर रहे हैं, maybe another 5 or 6 जो आपको early warning signal बहुत सारे मिले. So what you do is with the branch assistants, ask them to log into the CFR portal, and अगर उसमें clearly दिख रहा है कि आपका new bank has classified that account as a fraud, then you can probably take a screenshot or print out. Normally शायद allow नहीं होता उसमें, तो अगर स्क्रीनशॉट लेके आप उसका प्रिंट आउट करके अपने पास रख सकते हैं, तो आपका एक प्रूफ हो जाएगा कि ये पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस मैंने करा कि अपने ट्रांजैक्शन ऑडिट वाले लार्ज एडवांसेस के लिए एंड 7-8 और केसेस जिसमें मुझे अर्ली वार्निंग सिग्नल मिले एज पर दी मास्टर डायरेक्शन. सरसाई, बिकॉज हम लोग जब एमपीए चेक करते हैं तो उसकी सिक्योरिटी चेक करते हैं. टाइटल डीड, नॉर्मल टाइटल डीड्स का सिस्टम यह है कि you ask the bank to get the title deeds, but now after the title deeds have been digitized, now all the title deeds which are there as security of the bank are there on the CIRC portal. So what you need to do is, again, इसमें भी आपको branch assistance लेनी पड़ेगी. I cannot log into the CIRC portal, and जितने important NPAs हैं where you're not sure कि इसकी title deed करेक्ट वैल्यूएशन है या नहीं, तो आप बोथ मूवेबल एंड इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज के लिए आप सरसाई पोर्टल पे लॉग इन विद द ब्रांच असिस्टेंस करिए एंड प्रॉब्ली टेक स्क्रीनशॉट्स और प्रिंटआउट्स एज प्रूफ. Wherever, whatever job you're doing, my advice is please take a screenshot or a printout. Because if you do not have the proof कि मैंने ये 5 cases check करे कि ये fraud declared by the other banks है या नहीं, तो ये जब तक मैं ये दिखा सकता हूँ कि या सिक्योरिटी प्रॉपर है या नहीं, तो जब तक मैं ये नहीं दिखा सकता कि सीएफआर पोर्टल मैंने विजिट करा, मैंने क्रिल्क रिपोर्ट्स जनरेट करवाई, मैंने सरसाई पोर्टल चेक करा, so and for the RFA also CRILC report liya, to I will not be able to prove that I did a good job. Then there is another LEI case, of course, बहुत बड़े cases हैं इसमें broadly. So all this जो 3-4 चीजें हम लोग कर रहे हैं, these are all pre-sign off checklists. So these are the important things which I would like that the signing partner checks before he signs off. Of course, checklist भी complete हो गई नहीं होगी वो तो देखना ही है. तो LEI में ये 100 crore के ऊपर है, तो let's not get into checking this. One very important thing, I think the exception report already in the revised LFAR already hai. My advice is 31st March 21, one day post in April, and 2 or 3 other dates in early March. In sab ki aap exception report, if you get it in soft mein rakhiye. Otherwise, ask them to generate it in hard copy, review that, and see if there is anything where an issue which you need to report in either of the LFAR, IFCO-FR or the financial statement के audit में कोई MOC तो मुझे नहीं issue करनी. I think ये आपको already पता है कि जब fraud check करें और वैसे भी check करें तो CRILC report generate करके, because CRILC report will give you whether any account has been declared as an RFA or an NPA or what is the asset status. अगर मेरा my bank I'm doing has not declared it as a fraud or an RFA or as substandard or doubtful, maybe the other banks have declared it as a NPA. So that automatically becomes a checkpoint for me कि साहब how is it that मेरे बैंक में ये standard है और बाकी सब में doubtful है या substandard है. So CRILC reports are very important. We need to check this. I think everybody is aware that master circular अब निकलते नहीं, master directions हैं, master directions भी अब आसपास कोई नहीं issue हुआ है. But then even then, as of date, अगर आपको IRAC norms की compliance देखनी है, तो please download the 1st July 2015 RBI master circular on IRAC norms. Master circulars बहुत सारे अभी भी ऐसे हैं जो 1st July 2015 के applicable है. Unless there are circulars which are issued subsequently with respect to the same subject. I think things you need to carry, you need to definitely carry your letterhead, you definitely need to carry your digital signatures, you definitely need to carry your stamps, you definitely need to carry the closing instructions, all the technical guides in soft, all the master circulars, the circulars, the FAQs. I mean, that folder should be so that आपको कुछ भी अगर देखना हो तो immediately आप उसको refer to कर पाएं. And also, I think, very important is in case it is a bank which has Finacle in it, you need to ensure that, you have the respective transaction codes list and how to operate them, agar somebody is not very experienced. Do I continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Samank, do I continue? I think I'll probably take 10 to 15 minutes or
surely, sir, surely you can continue.
Okay. I think light chali gayi. Am I still
no, you are visible and audible, sir.
Okay. So quickly, let's go through the branch audit. If you have a macro look, we need to sign the tax audit. The certificate tax audit is, of course, only subject to provided we get that. We LFAR, the IFCO-FR, profit loss, balance sheet, we need to check the advances and the certificate. So broadly, हमारा जितना भी team constitution है, it should be to take care of this. So with LFAR and IFCO-FR, probably one person for profit loss and balance sheet, which probably can be a junior person. Advances has to be somebody who is senior, who's experienced in audit, and also who knows the restructuring this thing. If you actually see the balance sheet, the most important balance sheet mein heads which you need to check is broadly, I think, the off balance sheet items and the other assets and the other liabilities. So if you are through with this other liabilities and other assets on the assets and the liability side, and the contra items on the assets and the liability side, बाकी सब अगर आप देखें तो generally it will not be covered in most branches. Of course, advances I'm assuming कि आप already अलग से कर रहे हैं. So the other assets and other liabilities primarily मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ because वो वाले assets हैं जो you will find that you can debit a number of heads into other assets, or probably अगर unexplained credit hai, you can probably hold it under the other liabilities, and which is probably prone to suspected fraud. So one needs to be very careful. Off balance sheet item mein we need to be sure that the bank guarantees which have expired, and if it is within the claim period I will continue, and if it is beyond the claim period or the notice period I will have to knock it off. So the NMOC will have to come through this. In the bank guarantee, I think what you need to do is you need to be very clear about what is the difference between the financial guarantee and the performance guarantee. There is a circular of the RBI dated 2nd April 2013, which clearly differentiates that what is should be categorized under performance and what should be categorized under financial guarantee. Now, financial bank guarantee generally, since they carry higher commissions, so I've seen in a number of branches what they do is they classify every bank guarantee as a financial bank guarantee irrespective of the actual nature as per the 2nd April 2013 circular. ये आप अगर देख सकते हैं, probably everybody understands. So broadly जब भी आप bank guarantees की जो outstanding देखें, I think large bank guarantees you can ask one of your resource to check whether the classification between financial and bank performance is correct, and अगर नहीं है तो then probably you can, because सबसे बड़ी बात क्या है, financial guarantees एक higher credit risk carry करती हैं, और अगर आपने सब financial guarantees because of higher commission classify कर दिया तो my capital adequacy will also get impacted. FITL, I think अगर कोई भी restructured account है तो एक funded interest term loan create होगा जो कि other liabilities में head normally रहता है. So please ensure that the FITL in the asset side and the FITL in the other liabilities, that is asset side मतलब advances के अंडर में दोनों match कर रहे हैं नहीं कर रहे हैं, और अगर नहीं कर रहे हैं तो primarily इसलिए होगा क्योंकि आपका recoveries होने के बावजूद हमारे जो credit में other liabilities में FITL account है उसको मैंने income में charge off नहीं करा, मतलब I have not transferred it to the income part. So broadly, I think your risk area is bank guarantees, LCs, advances आप already check कर रहे हैं, and other assets, other liabilities. Other assets, other liabilities को I will repeat that please ensure 100% check, 100% movement or in the other assets, liabilities, and also do a thorough check of the nature of the heads under other assets, other liabilities. अगर ऐसे हैं जो हमें carry करना है, fine. Otherwise, you may probably have to, issue an MOC. Profit loss में बहुत broadly, I think एक ही test है is if you do because हम लोग normally profit loss के audit करते रहते हैं. If you do a variance analysis, जैसे March 20, March 21 का आपने वो कर लिया, उसमें देख लिया, as what is the change, is it justified? अगर ऐसा है तो then probably we'll have to get into the transactions and find out why there is a material change. Of course, इस साल आपको क्योंकि 23rd March Supreme Court का order आ गया, तो अब आपको ये देखना पड़ेगा कि जो compound और simple interest का है, whether that account the amount has been refunded in the CBS or probably adjusted in the installments. Interest rate, I think there's a specific revised LFR में, there's already a specific question of interest rate checking. So basically उसमें जो risk है वो I have to map it to the sanction letter, I have to map it to the letter of where I have been given a concession, so the concession letter of the higher authority. जब भी interest rate लगे तो I have to verify whether the value date is correct or not. सो जब डेटा इंटीग्रिटी और इंटीग्रिटी में जब रिवाइज LFR में चेक करेंगे तो इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ ऑल लार्ज एडवांसेस आपको प्रॉपर्ली चेक करना पड़ेगा कि जो सैंक्शन लेटर या कंसेशन लेटर से है वो मेरे फिनिकल में जो पैरामीटर्स हैं वो करेक्ट हैं या नहीं, एंड जब भी चेंज हुआ है वेदर द वैल्यू डेट इज करेक्ट और नॉट, बिकॉज द फिनिकल अलाउज यू अ वैल्यू डेट बेस्ड ऑन द डेट फ्रॉम विच इट इज इफेक्टिव. नाउ लेट्स से मैंने कंसेशन जो इंटरेस्ट में दिया वो जब तक मेरा सैंक्शन आया 15 दिन पहले का था, तो जब भी मैं सैंक्शन लेटर के बेसिस पे करूंगा तो मैं उसका वैल्यू डेट वो डालूंगा जब से मेरे सैंक्शन में वो लेटर आया है. Other things, I think, most of it now in the revised LFR, they've covered everything, because the entire profit loss, everything to do with the interest, everything to do with the NPA movement, everything to do with downgrading, upgrading, restructuring. So everything, सब चीज एक हो गई. But एक check जो probably last bullet में आता है, whether commission respect of forward contracts जहाँ unexpired portion है, normally CBS ये करेगा, but please do check whether it has been reversed or not. Processing charges, I think सभी लोग we are aware that we need to charge it on the due date and not based on a manual flag. Interest concessions एक चीज ध्यान दीजिएगा, जब भी interest concession किसी particular borrower को दिया जाता है तो it is normally for an account. So let's say मैंने आपको जैसे बताया लार्ज एडवांस है, लार्ज एडवांस में उसके पास 10 अकाउंट है. Now अगर उसका इंटरेस्ट कंसेशन देगा तो वो अप्लाई करता है फॉर मे बी द CCOD अकाउंट, राइट. तो अगर CCOD अकाउंट में उसको दिया है तो देन द एप्लीकेशन ऑफ द कंसेशन हैज टू बी एट अकाउंट लेवल एंड नॉट एट द कस्टमर लेवल, क्योंकि अगर आपने कस्टमर लेवल कर दिया तो जितने भी उसकी लिमिट्स हैं उसमें उसको कंसेशन मिल जाएगा, विच इज नॉट द केस we are looking for. Now generally interest में क्या problems आ सकती हैं? Number one, गलती से और maybe by force probably they fixed the interest rate at 0. So interest failure report एक generate फिनिकल में जरूर कर लीजिए and देखिए उसमें कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं जहाँ interest applicable is 0. वो सिर्फ 0 तब हो सकता है when it is an NPA account. The periodicity of application as per the RBI this thing is monthly, but then in some finical modes, probably the old versions, there is still an option, there was still an option, I don't know abhi hai ya nahi, of converting the monthly part or probably deferring the application of interest to a future date. तो ये आपको definitely देखना पड़ेगा, and you have to check whether as per the sanction letter हमारे parameters हैं या नहीं. Audit report, I think I've already told you that we need to check it along with the technical guide and the guidance note. But एक चीज आप जरूर I think we need to ensure that because अगर आपके पास accounting policies of the bank for 2021 आपके पास closing circular के पास नहीं मिलती हैं, तो then to my mind AS1 आपको in your audit report you need to qualify. Similarly, जो भी compliance of the accounting standards is being done at the head office level, चाहे 15, 17, 18, 22, 28, जितने भी हैं, जितने भी वो compliance है, इसकी qualifications हम अपनी audit report में we should definitely give. And all other provisions which are being taken care of at the head office level, generally, even in the draft audit report, they have already taken it in the other matters as per SA 705. Certain reporting issues, obviously, I think अगर आप LFR में भी देखें तो ऐसे कुछ ऐसे एक question है उसमें whether the transactions at the branch are beyond the delegated authority of the branch, and अगर ऐसे हैं तो have they been reported to the higher authority. Now, अगर आप वहाँ report ये कर रहे हैं कि transactions are beyond the delegated authority of the branch, then ये particular जो SA 700 में जो मैं report करता हूँ, there I given affirmation that all transactions at the branch ये legal and other regulatory head में जाता है. We have been doing it for years. We say that all transactions which we came across at the branch are not beyond the powers of the manager. Now, if अगर LFR में वो report कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ मैं ये देता हूँ, so I'm contradicting myself. So please be very careful about, mapping the issues along the reports. I think Ghosh Jilani, etc., everywhere, all of us are very, very clear that we need to do it. Jitne bhi certificates have, please ensure that the certificates you document everything, because over the years I think बहुत बारी ऐसा हुआ है कि certificates issued by the branch auditors, maybe there have been some cases where the branch auditors have been asked, especially in respect of agriculture subsidy, etc. So basic thumb rule ye hai ki wherever I am doing an audit assurance, I need to have a complete backup of the papers so that I'm able to justify what I have. So even in respect of certificate, don't just sign the certificate, take all backups, take all printouts, and then sign that. So I think that's about all. Thank you for a patient hearing. I think I have been able to comply with the time of 2 hours, and I would be open to any questions which any member has as of now. I'll definitely answer it right now. And agar kabhi bhi during the course of the audit over the next 3 to 4 weeks, agar kisi bhi member ko koi bhi agar aisi koi problem he faces, or there's any issue which he needs to discuss, he's open to call me up or probably send me an email. I'll be glad to give you a clarification to the best possible, whatever I can, to the extent I can. Thank you again. I'll stop sharing this now, and we'll now get into the questions.
Thank you very much, sir,
Nice
for such
question.
a wonderful session. I would request the participants and the members, if they have any queries, they can raise their hand or share their queries in the chat box so that it can be asked to a speaker.
I think Deepak Agarwal ji has sent a question. It says that accounts can be declared as NPA for non-covering of interest after moratorium period as Supreme Court judgment. No, see, Deepak ji, I'm not sure about your question, but primarily there is a moratorium from 1st of March to 31st of August, right? Now, if after that, automatically there is a 90 days delinquency period. Now, if the person or the borrower is not paid up to the 31st of March, it has not been restructured as per the 6th August 2020 circular or any other circular, then automatically, then, because the overdue period is more than 90 days, it would have to be classified as an NPA. I would be glad if you kindly share PPTs for our guidance. I'll do that. If any member has any query, okay.
Any member have the queries can raise their hand. सर मेरा एक डाउट था,
हाँ,
जो आप इंटरनल फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल के बारे में एक पॉइंट चल रहा था, उस केस में जैसे अभी as per Supreme Court judgment there was an interim relief that account cannot be declared NPA till that order was there.
correct.
So in that case the bank has not declared NPA because of on account of non-serving of interest. Whether that will be taken as manual intervention or not?
No, is it? See, सबसे पहले तो I think what we need to report is or understand is that our controls, those controls which are to be tested by us at the branch level will come to us from the SCA, and mostly in respect of advances and deposits. And since of course this is my understanding, so our verification process of the control would be restricted to whatever is there in the risk control matrix which comes to you from the RCM, provided your branch is chosen to as one of the IFCO-FR reporting branches. But in case I do not classify this account, because of the Supreme Court order. Obviously, it is in compliance with the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court order. And if I had done it, it would be, the incorrect picture. But if I have, not allowed the account to be declared as an NPA in between, it is perfectly in compliance, and it would not be a manual intervention or an override of the management control, because the management control up to the 23rd of March 2021 is not, it clearly says that I don't want to declare it. I don't have to declare it. I can't declare it as an.
Thank you, sir. I don't think so. There is any raise of hand or queries at my end. Sir, do you have any further queries at your end?
No, nothing in the chat.
अंशुल जी आपके पास?
नहीं, मेरे पास कोई क्वेरी नहीं है.
So
I think I should conclude, Saman.
जी. Thank you very much, sir, for such a detailed deliberation on the topic. I hope that members would have been benefited from your deliberation. With this, we come to an end of our fourth series of virtual seminar on bank audit. I hope the event organized by Bhopal branch would be helpful to the members in conduction of bank audit, and all the queries and doubts have been clarified by our renowned speakers during the 4-day seminar. Today, I would like to thank Anil K Saxena ji for giving us a time for this VCM on very shorter notice, because earlier at Bhopal branch we were planning to do the audit, the seminars on physical mode, but due to the growing cases of COVID, we at the last moment decided to conduct this seminar on virtual mode. I thank you very much from my heart, sir, for taking such a pain in shorter notice and accepting our invitation to be speaker for the day. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you from my side also, sir.
I would like to thank the participants of this seminar for taking part in this seminar and making it a great success. We thank you, sir, from our heart. Thank you very much, sir.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, each and everyone.
Shall I end the program?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, everyone.